What it do, cuckolds? It's your boy, and it's time for Hater on the Road. The hater was hanging out with some of his friends, and one of the hater's best friends got him a birthday package. In the birthday package was a picture with the hater like in a wrestling ring. Like he like had them customize it as the hater, you know what I mean? It was really, really cool, I thought. This was based on the design of my little avatar and subsequent work for some of my fans, cucks. Again, you know who you are, fan who sent me the drawings, but, you know, I don't want to put your business out there, you know what I'm saying? Maybe you don't want the world to know your name. Anyways, the point being, cuckolds, is that the hater is getting bigger. You know what I'm saying? Even my friends now recognize the power of the hater. The hater, as a result, considers this shirt that my friend gave me the first piece ever of hater merch. You understand what I'm saying? The first piece ever of hater merch. So maybe the hater will start making some merch for all his fans. Let the hater know in the comments if you want some hater merch. What do you want? T-shirts, hats? The hater can make it all. But anyways, let's get to the topic at hand. The topic at hand here is the fact that wrestling fans don't understand what wrestling is, all right? Wrestling fans are equally to blame for ruining wrestling as Triple H and CM Punk and Tony Khan are. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that, all right? And speaking of which, in my other video, some guy was like, you're an AEW mark. And it's like, go click on my first video, bro. You know what I'm saying? This whole channel is predicated on how much AEW sucks. But anyways, I digress. The point is, the hater last night decided to Google Edris Enofe, right? Because he's a jobber wrestler, and the hater was curious to see if this guy was still employed, because the hater hadn't seen him in TV for like 1,000 years, right? But Edris Enofe is a jobber, so he doesn't have his own Wikipedia. So I click on like cageside.net, whatever the fuck it's called, you know, that website. The hater should know what it's called, but I don't, right? And I clicked it, and there was like this thing that they had there where people leave reviews of wrestlers. Now, I don't know if this is a new thing, or if the hater just noticed it for the first time, because I've been on this website before, of course. But I didn't notice this, and it got the hater thinking. A great idea for a video would be to go and read comments from different people, you know, and put the hater's spin on it. But this was like while I was hanging out on the couch, so I only looked up two wrestlers, Obafemi and Cookie Rhodes. And as predicted, both of these wrestlers had really high ratings. And it got me thinking, it's like, man, the wrestling fans really are easy to fool. Like, they really are easy to trick, right? It's just like UFC fans, kind of, you know what I mean? UFC fans, it's like, they'll just believe whatever is popular at the moment. Nobody knows anything, and everybody tries to be like a knowledgeable fan, right? The only fandoms where you hear things like you're a casual is the UFC, mostly, and the WWE, right? In no other sport is it a badge of honor to be an obsessive fan, right? Now, if you're like me, and you've gotten into arguments with people about wrestling or the UFC, you know that it always comes down, especially with the UFC, like to a contest of who knows more, right? It becomes a dick measuring contest about who knows more about what, right? This is essentially what a smark is, right? A smark is a wrestling know-it-all. Someone that wants to position himself, or very rarely herself, as someone that knows more about wrestling than you. In other words, nobody actually gives a flying fuck about Okada, right? Nobody gives a shit about Kenta. Nobody cares about Julia. Nobody cares about, I remember when like Aleister Black was a thing, one of my buddies, right? He's like a wrestling buddy, so he's not like really my friend. I like him, but he's not really my friend. He was like, don't you mean Tommy End? And I was like, I knew that Aleister Black had been Tommy End once because I had heard about him, right? But I never seen a match. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, you should watch some of his matches. And it's like, no thanks. I'm not gonna go to like All Netherlands Wrestling and watch Tommy End versus like a young Ludwig Kaiser when I can go watch Stone Cold versus The Rock. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna do that, all right? That's not gonna happen. But the point of what he was saying was not to actually tell me that Tommy End puts on good matches. No. The point was for him to advertise to me that he knows who Tommy End is. It's the same with these people. It's like, Seth Rollins is this. Oh, don't you mean Peter Black or Tyler Black? You know what I mean? It's these people that just, they want you to know that they know a lot, right? And that happens in all levels of wrestling, right? But then there's people like me that just know a lot. I'm not proud of it, right? I consider myself to be a casual in many ways. Like, I'm not out there watching Dragon Gate. You know, I've seen it here and there, right? But I'm a casual in most senses of the word, right? Like, I don't know who Naomichi Narafuji fought at, like, Tokyo Dome 3. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, and I don't give a flying fuck. Nobody knows, right? These people just Wikipedia these things. Now, anyways, the reason why I bring this up is because the same thing is happening in American wrestling, right? You know when like a wrestler debuts and people pretend they're the next big thing, right? Obviously, the best example I could think of was Karrion Kross. Like Karrion Kross is one that the haters said was shit from the beginning. And when everyone thought this guy was going to be a main eventer, I said this guy's a fucking jobber, you know? And look at me now. He's the biggest jobber of all time, second only to Bo Dallas. Another guy that I was told was going to be this massive main eventer and who is now like a fucking relegated jobber, you know what I mean? But there's other people like this, right? So the haters thinking, what do these people have in common? Well, I've highlighted it all for you guys, right? I'm going to use the example of Obafemi, and I'm going to compare him to another example of a guy that had the same qualities and was given the same false qualities as Obafemi, named Keith the Bearcat Lee, all right? Here are the similarities, right? They're both big, strong guys. That right there is good. The hater enjoys wrestlers that are big, strong guys as opposed to being these like medium-sized or smaller dudes like Tyler Breeze and friends like that, you know what I mean? So that's kind of good, but that's where it stops. Do you remember when people were saying basically that Keith Lee has unbelievable charisma? Now, I can get behind the idea that Keith Lee has some presence, right? But Keith Lee is not charismatic. Keith Lee is just a dude. He comes out there, he smiles, puts his fingers up, and the theme song is "Bask in His Glory." And then people are like, wow, I can't believe that a guy who comes up and smiles and his only like distinguishing characteristic is "Bask in His Glory." Like, how did this guy then become big? Gee, I don't know. Maybe because we're fucking conditioned like Pavlov's dog to associate this guy with but bask in the glory. You know, like, what is this, a fucking choir? You know? Anyways, the point is, he has a lot of the same fake qualities that Obafemi has, right? Except for Keith Lee was better because Keith Lee actually had like badass moves. But Obafemi does some pretty cool moves. He does power moves. You know, he's new. I didn't know, by the way, that Obafemi was like as new as he was. I knew he was young, but I didn't know he had like been wrestling for like a year or whatever. Anyways, point is, Keith Lee was given all these attributes that he didn't earn, right? People are like, oh, this guy's charismatic. He has so much charisma. This guy's just amazing in everything he does. And it's like, no, he isn't. You know what I mean? Keith Lee was a passable wrestler. I put him on the level of like Dominik Dijakovic, right? Who I thought was unfairly released. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, how are you going to keep like fucking, you know, Sami Zayn and release Dominik Dijakovic? But that's not here or there. The point is, like, Obafemi and Keith Lee don't have that charisma, right? So the first thing that these wrestlers have, quote unquote, that they don't actually have, is charisma, right? This is the first thing that people just falsely attribute to wrestlers. It might be, I think it is, that people don't understand what charisma is. They just think like, oh, I like him, he's charismatic. You know what I mean? That's not what it means. You know? Charisma means everyone likes him, that he has likable qualities, and he has a certain air, or an aura, as the kids say, about him, right? Like, one of the comments in one of my videos said, Hulk Hogan had no aura, right? And I'm like, okay, this person clearly doesn't understand at all what charisma is. Hulk Hogan is like maybe the three most charismatic people of all time in the history of the world are The Rock, Hulk Hogan, and Ric Flair. It's those three, and probably in that order. You know what I mean? That's like the most charismatic people of our species. There's a few other ones, of course. There's a few other charismatic, like Mick Jagger, you know what I mean? A few musicians, some athletes, not many, honestly. It's really musicians, entertainers, some actors, you know, actresses, things like that. But very few, right? But like, people don't understand. Like, they think that Keith Lee's charismatic, and they think that Hulk Hogan isn't. It's like, you just don't understand what you're talking about. So that's why you're often surprised, well, why didn't my guy get pushed? You know what I mean? It's like, well, I don't know. Bask in his glory. That's why he didn't get pushed, you know? Maybe it's because of that. Or maybe it's the fact that, like, the other guy you like is called Karrion Kross, and he has zero charisma, and people kept saying, wow, this guy has everything. The look, the charisma, the presence, the in-ring work. It's like, dude, he has a backdrop finisher and a fucking running forearm finisher. And now he has a better finisher, but back then, it was a sleeper, a running forearm to the back of the head, and a fucking backdrop, which he called the Doomsday Saito suplex, even though it was just a fucking backdrop. But anyways, neither here nor there. Point is, the hater has identified it. The main culprit is this idea of charisma, right? People attribute charisma to people that don't have it, right? Same thing with people like CM Punk. Like, now, I will concede, CM Punk has more charisma than Obafemi and Karrion Kross. No doubt about it. But he's not more charismatic than Bubba Ray Dudley, or than, like, basically, like, 95% of the people in the Attitude Era. Like, William Regal's a great example. Tajiri's a great example of charisma. Like, you know, but let's say you compare CM Punk to someone that's comparable to him, right? Like, in the Attitude Era, like Eddie Guerrero, right? Eddie Guerrero was not really a main eventer. He was a mid-carder like CM Punk, but it's like, it's night and day, right? It's night and day. The charisma of Eddie Guerrero is like 100 times better and bigger than CM Punk. Or Kurt Angle is way more charismatic, right? So the point is, people just don't get this. The other thing that people don't get, in my personal opinion, is the importance of looks, right? You have to look good. Now, this has two manifestations. And I'm going to say it like it is, because the hater says it like it is. Number one, you have to have a good and desirable physique. In other words, I have to look at you on TV and say, damn, I wish my body looked like that. You know what I mean? I have to feel that. I have to be like, oh, shit, look at this guy. He's fucking jacked, right? When you see, like, Val Venus, when you see fucking, I don't know, Shelton Benjamin, even now, Shelton Benjamin now, when you see, like, The Rock, when you see Stone Cold, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, all these are Jericho in his prime, you're like, damn, man, these guys have really good physiques. Randy Orton in his prime, really good physique, right? When you see Obafemi, when I see him, I'm like, he needs to lose some weight. When I see Keith Lee, I'm like, he needs to lose a lot of weight. When I see Karrion Kross, I think, he's got a good physique, but he's got that face. Which brings us to the second part of looks. The face, right? The face is its own category. It's not just like whether someone's attractive or not, which obviously helps in every facet of life. If you're good looking, things are easier for you. You know, the hater can testify to this because the hater for a long time in his life has fluctuated his weight, right? The hater just yo-yo diets like a mug. When the hater is like in good shape and everything's going well, the hater is just like, everything just works out way better for the hater, believe me. You know what I'm saying? The hater's a good-looking dude, motherfuckers. But not when the hater's obese, you know? But the point I'm trying to make is, that matters too. But it's not just the face in that sense. It's also the face in terms of expressions, right? Like, Obafemi, I will give him credit. He has good expressions, right? He has this, like, intimidating scowl that he does, especially now that he's, like, this, like, half heel. You know what I mean? It really fits him well. So that might be able to, like, carry him somewhere, but realistically, other people don't. You know, Karrion Kross, one expression. An expression of, like, bewildered anger. Keith Lee, one expression. Like, sarcastic asshole smile. CM Punk, just one expression. Douche. You know what I'm saying? So, that's kind of the point I'm trying to make, right? I think a lot of wrestling fans just don't get it. They just don't get what makes a wrestler good, you know? And that explains the entire philosophy of why wrestling fans are often, like, surprised when the people that they like don't become champions. Right? They're like, wow, I don't understand. I don't get it. Why doesn't WWE sign Okada? I love Okada. Yeah, you love Okada because you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, right? It doesn't matter if you love Okada. It doesn't even matter if I love Okada. It matters if 6 to 8 million people are going to tune in to see Keith Lee or Obafemi. NXT draws 500,000 people. Obafemi will never be a star. A star, if we're using the term correctly, right? A star is someone that, like, when they come on, people talk about that shit at the water fountain, at the water cooler if you're in an office. You know? None of these guys have that capacity. Back in the day, like, the teacher in school would be like, did you guys see what The Rock did last night? Right? I'm talking middle school, not even high school, right? Did you guys see what Stone Cold did? Like, everyone liked that shit. Like, I guarantee, and I can do a poll here. If you're a high school student or a middle school student, has any teacher, or honestly, if you're like someone that's under 18, or even if you're over 18, honestly, has anyone you know ever said, hey man, can you believe what Obafemi did in NXT? Someone that you didn't know was a wrestling fan, right? Someone that's not a wrestling fan themselves. No, you walk around and you show Obafemi's picture to 100 random people in public, 99 of them are gonna say, what the fuck happened to Kofi Kingston? Why is he fat? The other 1% is gonna say, get the fuck away from me. I have no interest in this. No one's gonna know who this guy is. Same thing with Karrion Kross. Same thing with Trick Williams. That's why when you see Trick Williams, like, they put Trick Williams on Raw, right? They put Trick Williams on Raw, motherfucks. On Raw in the crowd, and they're like, here's Trick Williams. They have to, like, show him and then put the little thing under his name that says Trick Williams. Because you don't know who the fuck he is if you don't watch NXT, right? Back in the day, nobody had to do that for anybody that was famous. You just knew who they were. Just like in the UFC. If they show, like, A-Rod, you know, like, watching the UFC, they don't say A-Rod. Maybe, like, John Anik will say it, but they don't write, like, A-Rod. They're like, everyone knows. People start cheering. You know? Like, if they show Obafemi, like, imagine if Obafemi and Karrion Kross went to the UFC, and they pan out to, like, all these D-list celebrities and some A-list celebrities, and then eventually they get to Obafemi. No one's gonna know who he is. Like, the cameraman wouldn't know who he is. And that's what matters. Star power matters too. So there you have it, cucks. This is why wrestling fans just got it all wrong, cuckolds.